Hello and welcome to Class 5 of Herbology 101. Today's class is on ginger and elder, and we are going to learn how to make elderberry syrup. But before we begin, let's do a quick review. Our first review question for this week is, can you use arnica on broken skin? A, no, or B, yes? If you chose A, no, then you are correct. Always remember that arnica is not to be used on broken skin or burns. It can be toxic. This is an important thing to remember. Question 2. What does Montana mean when in a botanical name? Does it mean A, from the state of Montana? Does it mean B, a schizandra tincture? Does it mean C, from the mountains? Or does it D, refer to ginkgo nuts? I'll give you just a moment to think about that. And if you answered C, from the mountains, then you are correct. Our third question for the week is, what is the doctrine of signatures? Is it A, herbs will have what they are used for written on the underside of their leaves? Or B, herbs resembling various parts of the body can be used to treat ailments of those body parts? If you answered B, herbs resembling various parts of the body can be used to treat ailments of those body parts, then you are correct. I hope you did well on your review today. And now let's go ahead and let's go on and talk about properties today. We only have 2 properties this week. They're fairly easy to remember. The first property is alterative. And then alterative favorably alters the course of the body's path to wellness. So what this means is that when you are sick, an alterative will help you get better faster. Our second property for the week is rubefacient. And a rubefacient is something that increases blood flow to surface skin. And I think of 2 ways to remember this. If you look at the root of this word, rub, if you think when you rub your skin, it gets red because the blood flow to the surface skin increases. I also look at the first 4 letters of the word, rube, like ruby, and it reminds me that your skin gets red and increases the blood flow to surface skin. So that's an easy way to remember what a rubefacient does. So let's go on and talk about herbs. So now let's go on and talk about our herbs for today. Our first herb for today is elder, and elder is known as Sambucus nigra, also known as black elder. And sometimes you will even see products in health food stores that contain elder that have some variation of the Sambucus or Sambucol botanical name. So the next time you go to a health food store, see if you can find where a product called Sambucol or some variation of that. There is also a red elder. It is poisonous, so you want to stay away from it. What we're talking about today is Sambucus nigra or black elder. So let's talk about how elder smells, tastes, looks, and feels. So as far as smell and taste, it is a berry. We use the berry, so it is a fruitier flavor. As far as feel, there's nothing remarkable. Now, I do want to talk about what elder looks like. You see in the picture that it's these small black berries, and they come in these clusters. One thing that I always have to watch out for is that elder looks a whole lot like another herb that we've already discussed in this class when it's dried, and that is schizandra, but they taste very, very, very different. So I always like to take this class to remind my students that when you are working with your herbs, you always need to label your herbs so you know what they are, because more than once I have had to do the is it elder or is it Schizandra test. And if you remember our class on Schizandra, Schizandra has some pretty wild flavors. So it's not one that you want to mix up. Uh, so here I am telling you to please make sure that when you are working with Schizandra or elder that you label what you have so that you don't have to do the Schizandra versus elder test. All right, so we've gotten a little bit acquainted with elder. Let's talk some more about it. Let's talk about the properties. So elder is a diaphoretic, which means it makes you sweat, if you remember. It is an alterative, and it is a stimulant, and those all kind of go together. We commonly use it as flu and cold preventative. We use it in elder syrup or other preparations, either before you get the cold or flu to help prevent it, or when you have the cold and flu to help your body work through it faster. So elder is an interesting plant, and there are a whole lot of superstitions around the elder plant. Some are even in direct contrast with each other. I've mentioned one here is that an elder tree, if you plant an elder tree on the grave of a newly deceased person, and trim it into a cross, if it blooms, then it means that the person who is buried beneath is happy. And there are all sorts of superstitions about elder in this same vein. If you look it up, you can find all kinds of interesting information about elder superstitions. The next thing that I want to talk about elder that is not a superstition is that in the wild, some animals will recognize elder as a medicine and they will eat it to cure themselves. This is a practice known as zoopharmacomancy, okay? And what that means is that the animals have knowledge, an innate a knowledge within themselves of plants that can make them feel better when they are not feeling well. And this has been studied in elephants. Elephants have a knowledge of several different plants that they can seek out to help them with various things. On an even more basic level, we can see this with your cat or dog. When your cat or dog is sick and they go outside and they eat a bunch of grass to make them feel better. This is zoopharmacomancy at its most basic level. So I think this is a really fascinating topic, and researchers are continuing to look into it. It makes me wonder if the animals know the plants that they can seek out innately, just through that knowledge. What kind of knowledge do we have that we don't know that we have? So that's an interesting topic onto itself, and that's a little bit about elder. So let's go ahead, let's go on to ginger. Ginger's botanical name is Zingiber officinale. And when we talk about ginger, the smell and taste are probably its most prominent features. It has a very spicy, warm smell and taste. It's what we would call a warming herb. And it tastes very good if it's properly prepared in certain foods. I like to put it in tea and in stir fries, and it really adds something to the food. As far as look and feel, when we talk about ginger, we are using the roots. So they look like roots. They're kind of a pale yellow on the inside and a root-like appearance on the outside. Nothing particularly remarkable about the feel. So that's a little bit about ginger. Now let's talk about properties and uses. So ginger is a stimulant. It is also a carminative and a rubefacient. It is commonly used in tea with lemon and honey, as you can see in the picture here. This preparation can be used for nausea, for indigestion, for cramps. Now, I said tea, but technically, since ginger is a root, what we would be using would be a decoction. When you prepare ginger tea or ginger decoction, you do have to take some extra time with it for it to turn out correctly. It's not like putting a tea bag into your cup and expecting to have a perfectly steeped cup of tea right off the bat. What you have to do, you have to get your water a little bit warmer. You have to let it sit a little bit longer uh, in order to get that ginger flavor and into the water. So even though we call it ginger tea, truly it is a ginger decoction, and you do need to take those extra steps with it when you are preparing it. Otherwise, if you put it in a cup of hot water and wait 5 minutes and expect it to taste like anything but water, you're going to be very, very disappointed. So what do we use ginger tea or ginger decoction for? It's commonly used for nausea. And nausea when you're sick, and also for motion sickness. A very common thing when I was growing up that my mother used to do is she used to make a big thermos full of ginger tea when we went on road trips because I would get sick in the car. And this would help a little bit with my nausea, with my car sickness. So it works really, really well for car sickness. Today they make ginger candies, and I try to keep these in the car for my own kids. They don't really like them because if you've ever tasted ginger, it does have that hot, spicy flavor. But occasionally I can get one of my children to suck on one of those candies for long enough to help them with their motion sickness. So if you are going on a road trip, consider buying ginger candy or making some ginger tea. That might help out if you get motion sickness. Ginger is also used for indigestion. So if your stomach's upset and it doesn't feel good and you need something to calm it down, ginger works really well for this. It can also be used for stomach cramps, any type of, again, associated with things like indigestion. It is used topically on the skin in a preparation called a fomentation. And what a fomentation is, you take the decoction of ginger and you place a small towel into that decoction and then put that towel over sore muscles, places with arthritis or stiffness. Put that towel over, put something to hold that heat in, and sometimes even a heating pad over it, and it will help with that soreness, stiffness, arthritis, and things like that. It also makes your skin very, very red. So I have very sensitive skin, but I've never had a problem using a ginger fomentation. However, I would advise always doing a test patch before you do that, so that in case you are extremely sensitive to it, that you can know that about yourself and adjust accordingly. So the tea can also be used as a diaphoretic to help with cold and flu symptoms. This is a common use in our house. Whenever our family starts to have a cold or flu or body aches, things like that, I'll make a large pot of ginger tea with lemon and honey, and it often helps to alleviate those cold and flu symptoms quickly. It also helps with sore throats. It's a little harsh on the throat, but once you get it down, it helps with sore throats as well. So those are our 2 herbs for the day. Let's go ahead and let's talk about herbal syrups. Now, the definition of a syrup. So what is a syrup? A syrup is an herbal preparation made from a decoction. And when we're making a syrup, we generally want to make a decoction. So you're going to boil it longer, and you're going to reduce the liquid out of it so that it's more concentrated. So it's made from a decoction and a sweetener. These are often used for things like sore throats or for flavoring your food and beverages. So this week, I have a video for you on elderberry syrup, on how to make elderberry syrup. So I want you to listen closely. He's going to tell you what a syrup is at its most basic level. So listen for that as you're watching the video. And I also want you to think about some other things that you could use syrups for. So let's talk about what our weekly questions for, because that's what you're going to be answering this week about, is about what you're going to use syrups for. So our weekly questions, the first one, like I said, pay attention to what he says in the video and tell me what are the most basic ingredients in a syrup. Our second question, I want you to think of 3 additional herbs that you could use in a syrup, and these are not always as obvious as you might think. So some of them might surprise you, and I will tell you after our next class some things that syrups are used, or some herbs that are used in syrups that you might not think of. And our third question, I want you to think of 3 possible uses for syrup. We know that elder syrup is used for flus and colds, things like that. But what else could you use a syrup for? So go ahead and answer those 3 questions this week. If you have any questions at all as you're working through the material this week, please feel free to let me know, and I'll be more than happy to answer. And other than that, I will see you all next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.